How do you heal from narcissistic abuse? That's a big question with an answer that's not that simple, but I'm going to try to break it down for you as much as I can in this video and let you know, well, first of all, what are the wounds of narcissistic abuse that we need to really kind of set out and heal? How are the ways that narcissistic abuse, especially parental narcissistic abuse, has affected you? So in this video, I'm going to be talking about how you've been affected and what you can do to heal holistically, mentally, emotionally, physically, energetically, and spiritually. I'm Dr. Meg Haworth. I'm a transpersonal psychologist, a holistic nutritional chef, and best-selling author of Get Well Now, Heal Yourself with Food and the Power of the Mind. And I help wounded ACONs, adult children of narcissists, to become healed icons. And what's an icon? An icon is somebody who's independent, confident, original, and naturally you. All those things we get divided from having a narcissistic parent. And so this leads me right into what we're going to be talking about today, is healing the wounds from narcissistic programming, because that's really what's happened. You've been programmed to believe so many things about yourself. You're an ACON. You've been conned into believing all these things about yourself that just aren't true. And so it's that negative programming that runs us in so many ways unconsciously, and we find ourselves underachieving, overdoing. We find ourselves in codependent relationships where everyone else is more important than we are, taking care of everyone else, people pleasing. We find ourselves sick, really sick, with stomach issues and lung problems and all kinds of like autoimmune diseases and cancer and all of these different kinds of illnesses that are scientifically related to childhood abuse and how that breaks down the system over time and can create illness in the body. And so what I really focus on really is, what are the thoughts, the feelings, the beliefs? The beliefs, that's the programming. A belief is a thought that you keep thinking, and when a belief gets settled into you when you're a young child, it gets settled into that subconscious mind and thus the body. When you're just a little kid, it's really hard to just undo it. You can't, even though logically you may be able to think, well, that doesn't make any sense. That's not the truth of what is happening in my life. I'm not a bad person. You're going to struggle with the belief that you're a bad person because of the programming. And this is what needs to be really unwound in the therapeutic process in recovering from narcissistic abuse. And so I've really identified there are 5 primary wounds from parental narcissistic abuse, but also from long-term relationships with narcissists as well. So if you're married to a narcissist, typically you came from a family where narcissistic abuse was the norm, but you never really identified it because it's very hard to see this in your own parent. And so it's important to really look at the wounds, because it's the crumbs, the trails that leads you to understanding like, oh, okay, that programming, I've been believing these things my whole life. And this is not something that I really want to be on board with anymore, but I want to heal it. And so those 5 primary wounds that I'm talking about, the first one is the wound of self-worth. So your self-worth is your self-esteem, your self-value, how you feel about yourself. And very often the programming is you're not good enough. You're never going to get it right. No matter how hard you try, you can't get it right. No matter how many hoops you jump through and how many times you bend over backwards for that narcissistic parent, it was never about you in the first place. It was always about them. And so you're going to have this programming that around not being good enough, around never getting it right, around no matter how hard I try. So if you're identifying with this because you had a narcissistic parent or mate, really take note of this, because this devalues you. They've belittled you, they've shamed you, they put you down, they dismissed you, and this brings your self-esteem, your self-worth, and your value down. And it's very intentional. They want to bring your value down because when you are low at the lowest in your own self-esteem and your own self, you're easier to control. And that's exactly what they're looking for. They want to be able to control you, to get what they want from you, because they are using you to their own end. That's how they operate. That's how they think. This is a rigid personality style, this narcissistic parent or mate, and everything is black, white, right, wrong, good, bad. They went through a whole splitting process when they were young, and then they put their kids through that same splitting process, or their mates. And this really does apply to long-term narcissistically abusive relationships as well. So self-worth, rock bottom. And that self-worth is what you need to rise up out of it, right? That's what you need to heal from narcissistic abuse. So that's something you really need to focus on. So the next wound that I've identified that I think is one of the primary wounds of parental narcissistic abuse, long-term abuse from a mate as well, is the wound of self-expression. Now, your self-expression is very important. Only you have it, but you get divided from that because you were belittled, you were shamed, you were criticized. Even if you were really good at something, that wasn't nurtured in you unless, of course, the narcissistic parent got a lot out of it. So if they were using you as a way to receive supply, in other words, to receive a lot of energy from other people, attention, accolades, and all of that, they were receiving all of that from other people because you were really good at something that they approved of. They have to approve of the thing that you're really good at. If they don't approve of it, then you're going to have low self-esteem around that thing that you may really love. Maybe you're an amazing artist, but you put that aside because you were criticized so much that you came to believe that you're not good enough and you're never going to do it right. So why bother trying? So those kinds of defeatist beliefs really get deep down inside of us. So that self-expression, that's you. Your self-expression is from your heart. It's from who you really are, but you've been divided from that part of the self. And so finding out, what is it that I really love? What is it that's important to me? Think about what you did as a child that you went off into your bedroom to do to get away from your narcissistic parent. And just think about what that thing was and that you left behind in the past because they divided you from it, so that you didn't have that enjoyment and that ability to nurture that particular talent that you were really good at. So revisit that. That can help you with your self-expression and help you with your life purpose and your own meaning, which is an important thing for you to really identify if you've been through parental narcissistic abuse or abuse from a mate long term. So here we go. The third primary wound that I've identified is the wound of self-trust. And this is a big one. So you've been divided from your own intuitive centers, your own ability to listen to that internal guidance, because that guidance is what will help you through your life. It's your center of power, but you've been divided from that. And your intuition then becomes used for listening, for feeling out, sussing out what is going to happen that's bad, that's next. So you're always looking for the problem in the room. And so your intuition and your empathy will be used for that purpose. And so you'll go into any room and you'll feel all the negativity in the room. You'll pick up on the negativity of the person that you're just meeting and talking to. And yes, we all have a dark side. We all have a shadow side, but you've been entrained in that energy. You've been entrained to specific emotions, to shame, to guilt, to rage, to jealousy, to envy. And those specific emotions are the things that have been really running you and that you're feeling out for. And so you feel drained all the time, right? Why wouldn't you feel drained from all of that? And so all of that divides you from your ability to access that intuitive center that intuition is really created from the compassion, the love, the kindness, the truth, the peace, the joy, the excitement, all of these beautiful qualities, the qualities of the soul that we come into this life with, and we know as children are inherently our birthright, but we get separated from those qualities, and it's embodying those qualities that help you to heal this particular wound. So getting that self-trust built is something that is a really important part of the healing process from parental narcissistic abuse or abuse long-term from a mate. So the next wound that I want to talk about is the wounds of identity, your self-identity. This is what you identify with. And your identity is really what reveals your life purpose, your path, your meaning, what's important to you. Everybody has an identity. You can't not have an identity. But if you've identified with everything that the narcissistic parent has programmed you to identify with, then you're running those same programs, and the ways that they abuse you, we often end up abusing ourselves with that. And so that really does a number on our identity, and our sense of self. And so really figuring out, well, who am I? Why am I here? What's the purpose of my life? That's an important part of the process of healing holistically from this wound of identity. So that's something that you're really going to need to work on if you have been through long-term narcissistic abuse. And so the next thing are the wounds of the physical body. And this is something where I don't see a lot of people talking about this. They may talk about, you can get really sick from narcissistic abuse. And so, but what I really discuss in the work that I do is how the body holds the experiences, the thoughts, the feelings, and the beliefs, those negative core beliefs that we just keep cycling in over and over and over again, and that we keep playing out in our lives, and we keep playing it out through our perception. So I help people change that perception by releasing those thoughts, feelings, and beliefs from the body, looking at where pain is in the body, where disease is in the body, and helping you to release the underlying emotional root cause associated with your narcissistic abuse history. And so I've been there with narcissistic abuse. I know what it's like. So I'm really there with you in this journey, and I'm not dismissing you and what you've been through. Because I really understand the subtleties of it and the overtness of it as well. So that's important to understand too. And so looking at it from a holistic perspective and an energetics perspective. So this is where the energy system really comes in. The energy system really does run on emotional energy. And as easy as it is to become sick from our emotions, which we know by things that we say all the time, like, I'm worried sick about this thing, or that person makes me sick to my stomach, those kinds of things. This narcissistic abuse makes you sick to your stomach. You may have all kinds of physical issues. I know I did. I had over a dozen illnesses from this, from vertigo and migraine headaches to ulcers and irritable bowel syndrome and chronic muscle spasms in my neck and my back. And I'd be in bed for weeks at a time, endometriosis. It was just one thing after the next, and then I was just getting all these disease diagnoses. And I know a lot of you out there are dealing with this because you internalized all of this. You internalized all of this emotional experience and these beliefs, and then you came out of it with this really low self-esteem, trying to make your way in the world and having a very hard time doing that because there's all this drag on your system from how you've been drained energetically over time by your narcissistically abusive parent or mate. So this is really important stuff to look at. So looking at all of those 5 primary wounds are things that will help you to get well. I created a specific technique called whole person integration technique that helps to release the energy from the field and from the body. And I have watched people literally heal overnight. Physical conditions have healed up overnight because we got to the emotional root cause. They may have done everything you can think of to get well. They may have done things with food and environment and all kinds of medical treatments and surgeries and all kinds of things to get well. But they felt like, oh my gosh, I'm still incredibly anxious. I'm still guilty and full of shame. And I can't even take a shower without, having the lights off because I'm so ashamed of myself. So those are some clues that there's a lot of shame inside of your system. But once you release that from the system, you become lighter, you become freer, you become able to have more energy available to you to do the things you really want in your life, to do the things that you really love. And as you go through this process of releasing this, you become more whole, you become more fulfilled. You get to become who you were always meant to be and who you were separated from by your narcissistic parent or long-term mate. And then you get to integrate itself. And it's a really beautiful experience to go through. I mean, I've watched people have their depression diagnosis redacted. My own was. I have had people have their Hashimoto's go into total remission. My own autoimmune diseases went into remission. I've had people with fibromyalgia and chronic horrible pain and chronic fatigue syndrome for decades go into remission and the pain stops. And I went through that myself. So I also help you with food and nutrition to support the body to heal itself while you're going through your healing process, because everything is energy. Everything has a frequency, and that's a lot of what we look at is the energy and frequency of you and your emotional state, and the energy and frequency of the food that you're eating and the things in your environment that might also be affecting you. And then we just look at the holistic picture, that holistic package. And I help people with that in my Iconic Me therapeutic coaching program. I have a 3-month and a 6-month program that's for people who wounded ACONs who want to become healed icons, or even if you were in a long-term narcissistically abusive relationship, the healing is really necessary, because what will happen is you'll end up isolating yourself, you'll end up getting sicker, you'll end up getting more depressed and having a lot of difficulties because you're still holding this emotional experience inside of your field. So I hope you release that, and I help people get well now from the wounds of parental narcissistic abuse. I also have an online course, and it's very affordable, and it's on my website at meghaworth.com. You can check that out. That's a great way to get introduced to my work and really understand how I work with energy exercises to help you release that energy, and then how you can heal those 5 primary wounds. We go in depth into those different wounds, and my website is meghaworth.com, as I said, and the name of the course is Healing the 5 Primary Wounds of Parental Narcissistic Abuse. So if you are interested in talking to me about how I might be able to help you heal, you can do that for free. You can book a free consultation with me. The links are in the comments and in the description below. And please check me out at meghaworth.com, where there's lots of free gifts there for you. 52 ways to tell if your parent is a narcissist free checklist is on there. There's a recipe book. There's the Adverse Childhood Experiences study quiz, so you can determine your ACE score, and we can talk about that in a free consultation. So there's all kinds of things available to you, and of course this YouTube channel where there are over 400 videos now, and so please check out my videos, and just, you know, really, it's so important for you to focus on you. This is one of the biggest healing tips that I can give you if you've been through parental narcissistic abuse or long-term narcissistic abuse, and you are identifying with a lot of the things that I've said in this video. Please just go ahead and follow me and follow my work. It's very different than a lot of the narcissistic abuse recovery coaches out there. They all have amazing things to say. Find the one that really speaks to you. But if it's resonant for you to really look at the entire holistic system, mental, emotional, physical, energetic, and spiritual, then I'm here for you. I've been through it myself, and I would love to help you heal. So I thank you so much for watching this video. If you watched all the way here to the end, I really appreciate you. And I hope this information will help you get well now.